Picture this, because, I mean, I can almost guarantee you've been here recently.
Oh, I know I have.
Right. So it's a completely normal afternoon. You've got maybe an hour or two of free time, or, perhaps you're just taking a quick breather from work.
Just a little break.
Exactly. You sit down, pick up your phone, and you just scroll. You watch one short video, you swipe, you watch another. Nothing special, nothing terrible, just drifting.
Yeah, totally passive.
And then, without you even making a conscious decision to keep going, an entire hour passes. Maybe two.
And when you finally do put the phone down, it isn't because you found what you were looking for.
No, not at all.
Or because you feel satisfied and rested.
Right, you put it down because you are physically fatigued. I mean, your eyes are tired, your posture is terrible.
You got that weird neck pain.
Yes. You look around the room and nothing has actually changed in your physical environment, but you are carrying this incredibly specific, heavy feeling.
It's a very distinct weight.
It really is. It's not a full-blown crisis, and it's not even an obvious, sharp regret. It's just this light, unnamed emptiness.
Like a void.
Yeah, the quiet realization that a whole chunk of your day has just slipped away and absolutely nothing real happened.
It is a profoundly modern sensation, honestly. We are experiencing this completely passive evaporation of time, and it leaves a residue of low-grade anxiety that is incredibly hard to shake.
That residue is exactly what our mission is for today's deep dive. We're pulling from a really fascinating collection of sources today.
A great mix.
We've got modern behavioral psychology studies, sociological research on the attention economy, and classical existential philosophy essays.
It's a broad spectrum.
It is, and we are going to completely deconstruct why we waste time, what is actually happening in your brain during that 2-hour scroll, and why the guilt you feel afterward.
Which is always there.
Always. Why that guilt might actually be the very mechanism keeping you trapped in the cycle. So, okay, let's unpack this. Mindless scrolling often feels, to me at least, like eating junk food when you're not even hungry.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
You aren't enjoying it, you don't even actively want it, but you just cannot stop your hand from reaching back into the bag for another chip.
That's a very accurate way to frame it. It is a compulsion completely disconnected from actual desire.
Right.
And to really understand why that hollow feeling happens and why we keep reaching back into the bag, we first have to look at the cultural narrative we've built around time.
Which brings us to a specific, incredibly heavy quote that our sources highlight.
The big one.
The big one. It's the kind of intense motivational quote that always seems to pop up on your feed right when you're feeling the absolute worst about your screen time.
Almost like the algorithm knows.
Right. And it goes like this. The day you waste is the day the dead wish for.
Oof. It is designed to hit you right in the chest.
It really does. I mean, it's supposed to be this ultimate motivational kick in the pants. It's meant to shake you awake, make you throw your phone across the room, and, I don't know, go write a novel or run a marathon.
Right. Be productive.
But the psychological studies we're looking at point out something incredibly insightful. Using mortality as a productivity tool doesn't actually work.
No, it rarely does.
Instead of inspiring you, it just creates an immense paralyzing pressure. It sets up this completely unfair comparison between you just sitting on your sofa trying to decompress after a long Tuesday and people who have literally passed away.
It weaponizes your own mortality against you.
Yes.
The classical sources bring up the Roman philosopher Seneca, who famously observed that humans don't lack time, we simply waste it.
Sure.
He argued that life is long enough if you know how to use it, which is a beautiful, profound observation.
It is.
But applying that ancient wisdom directly to a modern afternoon ignores a massive contextual shift. Seneca did not walk around Rome with a supercomputer in his pocket, engineered by thousands of behavioral scientists to ping his dopamine receptors every 5 seconds.
Wait, I have to push back on this traditional wisdom a bit anyway. Isn't a little downtime necessary?
Of course it is.
Like, if I'm exhausted, why does a quote like "the day the dead wish for" make me feel paralyzed and heavy instead of actually inspired to change my behavior?
It's a great question.
If I logically know my time on Earth is precious, why doesn't that knowledge immediately translate into better habits?
What's fascinating here is that knowing the value of a resource doesn't inherently change our behavioral responses, especially when human psychology is involved.
Okay, how so?
When you see a quote like that, you logically know your time is valuable, but the immediate emotion it generates isn't motivation.
It's guilt.
Exactly, it's guilt. It makes you feel terrible about your own lack of discipline. And here is the mechanical flaw in that cycle. What do human beings reliably do when they feel bad.
We try to feel better.
Right. They look for a quick, accessible way to soothe or numb that negative emotion.
Oh, wow. So the guilt makes us feel awful, and to stop feeling awful, we immediately reach for the closest pacifier.
Which is the phone.
Which is the phone. The quote that is supposed to cure the scrolling actually triggers the next session.
Precisely. It is a closed feedback loop. The guilt spikes your cortisol, you feel stressed, and your brain demands a distraction to regulate itself.
That is wild.
From a psychological standpoint, analyzing why you are wasting time is the wrong framework entirely.
So what's the right framework?
The real question you need to ask yourself is, what underlying discomfort are you trying to avoid by numbing out?
Okay, so if we are actively using digital distractions to run from something, what exactly is chasing us? Let's dive into the inner workings of the brain here.
Let's do it.
Because nobody wakes up in the morning, stretches, and sets an explicit goal to live a completely meaningless, distracted day.
No one sets that intention. But our brains are fundamentally evolutionary machines.
Right.
They are hardwired to prioritize ease, to avoid pain, and above all, to conserve energy.
Which makes sense for survival?
Exactly. Seeking meaning, finding purpose, engaging in deep, fulfilling work. Those activities require massive amounts of cognitive energy.
It's exhausting.
Sigmund Freud mapped this out as a fundamental tension in the human psyche between what he called the pleasure principle and the reality principle.
How exactly do those two principles interact when I'm just, sitting on my couch?
Well, think of the pleasure principle as the primitive drive that wants quick, easy, immediate gratification with zero effort.
Okay.
The reality principle is the more developed, rational part of the brain that understands that valuable, meaningful things require effort, delayed gratification, and enduring some level of discomfort.
Like going to the gym or reading a hard book.
Right. Historically, in a natural environment, the reality principle usually had to win out just for us to survive. You had to endure the discomfort of hunting or farming to get the pleasure of eating.
Sure.
But in our modern digital environment, that friction is entirely gone.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure is instantly, infinitely accessible with the flick of a thumb.
So the brain just takes the shortcut.
Given the choice, the brain will almost always take the path of least resistance to conserve calories.
But the existential philosophers in our sources take this a step further than just basic biology and dopamine, don't they?
They absolutely do.
It's not just about conserving energy. It's about what happens when things get quiet.
Yes, and this is where it gets into much deeper psychological territory. Albert Camus argued that humans use constant busyness to mask a fundamental lack of meaning in their routine.
It was heavy on its own.
Very. But Jean-Paul Sartre provides perhaps the most penetrating insight here. He explained that humans are absolutely terrified of what he called the void.
The void.
The void is emptiness. It is the silence that happens when all the external noise, demands, and distractions stop.
When you're just alone in a room.
Exactly. Because in that silence, there are no predefined roles. You aren't an employee or parent or a student. There are no instructions. There is only you, alone with your own mind.
That is intimidating.
Facing yourself, unvarnished and in silence, is arguably the most intimidating thing a human being can do.
That is a terrifying thought. So we aren't necessarily scrolling because we really want to look at something specific on the screen.
No.
We're scrolling to actively avoid looking at ourselves. It's like using background noise or a podcast or an endless feed as a screensaver for the brain.
Oh, I like that.
You just keep the flashy, colorful shapes moving across the monitor to avoid having to stare at the blank, terrifying screen of your own unfiltered thoughts and anxieties.
That is a brilliant analogy. The screensaver prevents the system from going into deep reflection.
Exactly.
If you map this onto the psychology of procrastination, the mechanics make total sense. You rarely delay starting a project because you physically cannot do it.
Right, you usually have the skills.
You delay it because the act of starting forces you to confront a psychological discomfort. Maybe it's fear of failure, fear of inadequacy, or just the friction of intense effort.
You don't want to feel that discomfort.
So you pull up the screensaver, you scroll.
Our brains are naturally wired to take the easy way out, and we are fundamentally terrified of the void. That's the internal vulnerability.
Yes.
But as our sociological sources point out, we aren't just dealing with an internal flaw, we are fighting a massive external apparatus.
And this is a crucial pivot in understanding the behavior.
Here's where it gets really interesting, in a kind of scary way.
It is scary.
Mm-hmm.
You are living in a digital environment that has been aggressively and intentionally designed to exploit that exact psychological vulnerability we just talked about.
It's not an accident.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Your attention is no longer just your personal subjective experience of the world. It has been transformed into a highly lucrative commodity that massive corporate entities want to harvest.
It feels almost predatory. Like I'm not a customer interacting with a service anymore. I'm just a natural resource that they're mining.
You've just perfectly described Karl Marx's theory of commodification applied to the digital age.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Marx analyzed how, within certain economic systems, human beings become tools or raw materials without even realizing it.
Wow. When you're sitting on your couch, scrolling, you feel like you are the consumer. You feel like you are relaxing. But the reality of the mechanism is that you are doing unpaid labor.
Unpaid labor, because I'm watching ads.
More than that. Every second you watch, data points are gathered, your psychological profile is refined, and advertisers bid in real time for your next microsecond of attention. You are the product being packaged and sold.
And the architecture of the platforms ensures we don't realize it's happening. The philosopher Michel Foucault is brought in to explain this, right?
Yes, exactly. Foucault's work focused on how power operates in modern society.
Right.
He argued that true power doesn't rely on physical force or obvious coercion. I mean, if someone yelled at you to look at your phone for 3 hours, you would rebel.
I'd put it down immediately.
Instead, modern power operates through architecture and subtle design. It shapes your behavior so smoothly and seamlessly that you actually believe it was your own idea.
How does that actually play out on our screens? What's the architectural mechanism there? It's the removal of all friction. Historically, media had stopping cues. A television show ended and a commercial came on.
You had to get up to change the channel.
Right. A book had chapters, a newspaper had a physical bottom of the page. These were natural moments where the environment prompted you to ask, do I want to keep doing this?
A built-in pause button.
Exactly. The endless scroll eliminates the stopping cue entirely. The next video autoplays before the first one even finishes.
So true.
The system is flawlessly smoothed out so that you guide yourself right into the trap, completely bypassing the reality principle.
So you aren't just fighting your own willpower on a random Tuesday afternoon. You are stepping into a casino where the architecture is mathematically optimized by thousands of servers to bypass your rational brain.
A casino is the perfect metaphor.
You tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to take 5 minutes to clear my head, but the very next piece of content is literally calculated based on your entire behavioral history to keep you there for minute number 6 and minute number 60.
Which is why we absolutely must stop solely blaming ourselves.
Yeah, the guilt doesn't help.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, if you only look inward and say, I have terrible self-control, I'm just lazy, you completely miss the invisible societal and technological mechanisms that are keeping you pinned down.
You blame yourself for a systemic trap.
Right. If you don't see the architecture of the trap, you cannot escape it.
But the architecture isn't perfect. I mean, eventually the spell breaks. The scrolling does stop.
Usually when basic biology takes over.
Exactly. We eventually have to use the bathroom, or we get hungry, or our eyes just can't take the blue light anymore. And that brings us to the moment after the screensaver turns off. That specific, quiet moment of dread we talked about at the very beginning.
Yes. The existential drop.
The existential drop. The moment you put the device down, look around your living room, and that thought hits you. What did I just do for the last 3 hours?
It's a brutal realization.
Sartre actually has a framework for exactly why this specific moment feels so hollow, doesn't he?
He does. Sartre distinguishes between simply existing and actively living.
Okay, what's the difference?
Existing is just being physically present in the timeline of a day. You are occupying space, burning calories, and time is passing.
Just floating along.
But living requires consciousness. It requires participation, making choices, and exerting your agency on the world.
Oh, I see.
When you have that heavy sigh after a long scrolling session, you are experiencing the sudden, sharp realization that you just spent 3 hours existing, but you are not living.
Camus describes a very similar feeling, calling it the absurd. It's the jarring friction between what we intellectually know to be true, that our time is finite, that life is short, and how we actually act, throwing away hours on absolutely nothing.
Yes, the gap between knowing and doing.
But I have to ask, is it really that deep?
What do you mean?
Do I really need to feel profound existential dread over watching funny dog videos for an hour? Sometimes I'm just genuinely exhausted from staring at spreadsheets all day.
Isn't there a difference between needing rest and experiencing a philosophical crisis is a vital distinction to make. And it's exactly where the philosopher Fyodor Dostoevsky comes in.
Okay.
Dostoevsky explained that the deepest psychological pain doesn't come from feeling or from resting. It comes from cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance.
The sharp realization that you are living out of alignment with your own deeply held values.
So it's about the intention behind the action.
Exactly. If you intentionally decide, I am exhausted, I am going to watch dog videos for an hour to turn my brain off and recover,
Then that's fine.
there is no existential drop afterward. You made a choice, and you rested. You were living.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better.
The dissonance only happens when you didn't choose it. When you intended to read a book, or call a friend, or even just sit peacefully, but instead you were hijacked by the algorithm and lost the afternoon.
Because I didn't decide to do it.
Right. The pain is the realization that you surrendered your agency. Nietzsche believed that humans don't actually fear pain or hardship. We can endure immense suffering if it has a purpose.
Like training for a marathon.
Exactly. What we truly fear is a lack of agency and a lack of meaning.
That makes so much sense. The pain isn't the dog videos. The pain is the loss of control.
Yes.
And in that moment of waking up from the scroll, that harsh quote, "The day you waste is the day the dead wish for," comes echoing back.
And it hits differently now.
It stops being a cheesy motivational poster and becomes a deeply painful mirror. It asks, if a day passes with zero intention, zero creation, and zero conscious choice, did you actually experience it?
It is a harsh mirror. But the purpose of exploring this philosophy isn't to leave you feeling defeated by algorithms or crushed by existential dread.
Good, because I'm feeling a little crushed.
It is to wake you up. Once we see the mechanisms clearly, how the brain avoids the void, how the attention economy monetizes that avoidance, and how cognitive dissonance creates the guilt, how do we actually break the cycle?
Because we firmly established that beating ourselves up doesn't work, the guilt just sends us right back to the casino to numb the pain.
Right.
We need a strategy that doesn't rely on self-punishment.
And Sartre gives us the foundational step here. He asserts that yes, we are radically responsible for our own actions. No one else can reclaim your time for you.
Okay.
But accepting responsibility does not mean you must destroy yourself with guilt. Guilt is completely backwards looking. It obsesses over the time you already lost, which paralyzes you.
It keeps you stuck.
Clarity, on the other hand, is forward looking. It empowers you to act in the next moment.
Guilt paralyzes. Clarity empowers. That is a crucial shift. Nietzsche echoes this exact sentiment too.
Yes, he does.
He observed that people rarely change their deep-seated habits just because someone scolded them or told them what was morally right. True behavioral change happens when you clearly and objectively observe what you are doing to yourself without layering on heavy judgment, just pure, neutral observation.
Exactly. When you truly observe the physical and mental emptiness of the endless scroll, without calling yourself lazy or a failure, the behavior naturally starts to lose its magnetic appeal.
Because you see it for what it is.
But to make this highly practical for our daily lives, our sources synthesize these ideas into a Stoic approach.
Ah, the Stoics.
Yes, starting with Epictetus. This is rooted in the concept of the dichotomy of control. You must relentlessly separate what you cannot control from what you can control.
Let's map that directly onto our smartphone.
Okay, you cannot control the billions of dollars that tech companies have invested in optimizing their algorithms. You cannot control your brain's evolutionary biological desire for cheap dopamine.
Right.
And you often cannot even control that sudden subconscious urge to pull your phone out of your pocket when you feel a slight pang of boredom.
So if I can't control the trap, the bait, or my instinct to bite the bait, what is actually left in my zone of power?
You control the exact micro moment when you wake up.
What do you mean?
That split second of awareness when you realize, I am drifting, I am scrolling without purpose. In that exact second, you control the physical choice to put the device down. That fraction of a second is your entire zone of power.
So what does this all mean for our daily lives? It's about radically lowering the bar for success. It reminds me of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, this Stoic idea that you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be deliberate.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me offer an analogy to ground this for you listening. Let's say your entire digital life, your attention span, your daily routine is a complete disaster area. It's a massive, overwhelming mess.
We've all felt that way.
If you tell yourself, I have to aggressively deep clean my entire life, top to bottom right now, delete all my apps and become a monk, you are going to get overwhelmed.
The reality principle is demanding way too much cognitive energy.
Exactly. You will feel anxious, and you will probably just sit on the couch and scroll to escape the anxiety of fixing it.
The required effort is too high, so the pleasure principle defaults to numbing.
Exactly. But the Stoic approach is saying, forget cleaning the whole house. Just go wash one single physical dish.
Just one dish.
If your digital life is an endless, messy stream of noise, you don't need to throw your phone in the ocean. Just do one tangible, analog thing. Pull yourself out of the digital ether into the physical world.
Crowd yourself.
Wash a single physical dish with actual warm water and soap. Read one page of a physical book. You don't need a perfectly optimized hustle culture day. You just need to leave one real physical trace that you existed today.
This is perhaps the most vital takeaway from all these sources.
Yeah.
You'll still waste time. You will absolutely fall into the algorithmic trap again tomorrow.
It's because we're human.
The goal is not a flawless transformation. The goal is proportion and intention. If you lose 5 hours on a Sunday to mindless drifting, but you manage to wake up and have 1 hour of true, focused presence.
Like a walk or a real conversation.
Whether that's having a real conversation, going for a walk, or washing that one dish with intention,
Yeah.
the day is no longer a total void. You pulled something real out of it.
You proved you were participating in your own life. This has been such a fascinating journey. We started with this incredibly intense, heavy quote. The day you waste is the day the dead wish for. And I feel like over the course of exploring the psychology and the sociology, we've completely reframed it.
It changes from a weapon used to induce guilt into a tool used to prompt awareness.
It's no longer a punishing standard. If we listen to Camus, Sartre, and the Stoics, it's not an attack on your productivity. It's a gentle, persistent reminder to just be conscious.
Right.
The dead do not wish for you to be a flawless, inbox zero productivity machine. They just wish for you to be present in the time you were lucky enough to have, to actually experience the Tuesday afternoon rather than just letting it passively happen to you.
It is a call to presence, not a call to labor.
That's beautifully said. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to explore on your own that builds on Sartre's idea of running from the void. Try to think about your endless scrolling not as a personal failure of willpower, but as a diagnostic tool.
That is a very constructive way to look at it.
If these algorithms are perfectly designed to fill the exact shape of your boredom, your stress, and your anxiety, take a close look at the specific content you lost yourself in today.
Analyze the screensaver.
Exactly. What were you watching for those 2 hours? If it was nonstop travel and van life videos, are you feeling trapped in your current routine?
That's a great point.
If it was endless productivity hacks, are you feeling fundamentally inadequate at work? What exactly does that specific flavor of digital noise tell you about the quiet thoughts you were trying so hard to run away from?
The screen is acting as a mirror. The question is, are you brave enough to look at what it's showing you?
Exactly. So the next time you find yourself on a normal afternoon with the phone in your hand and that hour slips by, well, just notice it without the guilt, put the phone down, wash one physical dish, leave one trace. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.